My stepmother threw away all my late mother's photos, so I made sure she regretted it for the rest of her life. I came home from college on a Friday afternoon. I walked into my old bedroom. And my heart stopped. The shelf where I kept my mother's photos, empty. The shoebox under my bed filled with her letters, her Polaroids, her handwriting, gone. Every single trace of my dead mother had been erased from that house like she never existed. And when I ran downstairs screaming, my stepmother just looked at me with this cold, calm smile and said, "It was time to let go, sweetheart. This is my home now." That was the moment something inside me snapped. And what I did next? She never saw it coming. Before we continue, if you love dramatic true stories like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. My name is Jessie. I grew up in a small town outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. And for the first 12 years of my life, I had the most beautiful, loving mother anyone could ask for. Her name was Claire. She was the kind of woman who baked cookies for every neighbor on the block. She volunteered at the church. She sang to me every single night before bed. Even when she got sick, even when the cancer started eating her alive, she never stopped smiling at me. She died 3 weeks after my 12th birthday. I remember standing at her funeral in a black dress that was too big for me, holding my dad's hand, watching them lower her casket into the ground. I didn't cry. I couldn't. It felt like someone had reached inside my chest and ripped out everything that made me alive. After she passed, it was just me and my dad. And for a while, we were okay. We leaned on each other. We kept her photos on the mantle. We talked about her every night at dinner. She was still part of our family, even though she was gone. Then he met Diane. Diane was a woman from his office. Blonde hair. Big smile. Loud laugh. She came into our lives like a hurricane, fast, aggressive, and destructive. Within 6 months, my dad was dating her. Within a year, they were engaged. And 2 weeks after I turned 14, she moved into our house. My mother's house. At first, Diane acted nice. She brought me gifts. She told me she'd never try to replace my mom. She said all the right things. But I saw the way she looked at my mother's photos on the wall. Like they were insects she wanted to crush. It started small. She accidentally knocked over a framed photo of my mom in the living room. The glass shattered. She said she was sorry, but she never replaced it. Then she redecorated the living room. My mom's favorite curtains? Gone. Her handmade throw pillows? Donated. One by one, the pieces of my mother disappeared from the common areas. I told my dad. I begged him to say something. He just sighed and said, "Jessie, Diane's trying to make this feel like her home too. You have to understand." I didn't understand. I would never understand. So I did the only thing I could. I gathered every photo, every letter, every little memento I had of my mom and I moved them into my bedroom. I put them on my shelf. I kept them in a shoebox under my bed. I created a little shrine on my nightstand, her favorite necklace, a birthday card she wrote me when I turned 10, and a small framed photo of us at the beach. That room became my sanctuary. The one place in the house where my mother still existed. Diane knew. She saw it every time she walked past my door. And I could tell it drove her crazy. But she never said anything. Not directly. Not while I was still living there full time. Then I turned 18 and left for college. I was so excited. A fresh start. A new chapter. I packed my bags, hugged my dad, and drove 4 hours to my university. I left my mother's things in my room because that was my room. That would always be my room. Or so I thought. Because 3 months later, I came home for Thanksgiving break. I walked through the front door. I climbed the stairs. I opened my bedroom door. And my entire world collapsed. The shelf was empty. The shoebox was gone. My mother's necklace, her photos, her letters, every single thing had vanished. And in their place? Diane had set up a home yoga studio. A yoga mat. Candles. Essential oils. My mother had been replaced by lavender-scented candles and a foam roller. I stood in that doorway and I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking. My vision was blurring. I felt like the floor was opening up beneath me and swallowing me whole. Every memory of my mother, every tangible piece of proof that she had existed, that she had loved me, that she had held me, was gone. I tore through that room like a hurricane. I ripped open closet doors. I pulled out drawers. I checked every corner, every shelf, every inch of that space. Nothing. Not a single photo. Not a single letter. Not even her necklace. Gone. All of it. Gone. I ran downstairs screaming. My dad was sitting on the couch watching football. Diane was in the kitchen pouring herself a glass of wine. A glass of wine. Like it was just another peaceful Sunday afternoon. Where are my mother's things? I shouted. My voice cracked. Tears were streaming down my face. My dad looked confused. He turned to Diane. And that's when she gave me that smile. That cold, calculated, sickening smile. Jessie, honey, she said, swirling her wine glass, I needed the space for my yoga studio. You're in college now. You don't live here anymore. I packed up all that old stuff and donated what I could. The rest I threw out. It was time to let go, sweetheart. This is my home now. I felt my knees buckle. Threw out. She threw out my dead mother's photos. Her handwritten letters. Her necklace. The only things I had left of the woman who gave me life. I looked at my dad. I was begging him with my eyes. Begging him to stand up. To say something. To defend my mother's memory. To defend me. He opened his mouth. And then he closed it. He looked down at his hands. And he said the 5 words that shattered me completely. Diane, maybe that was a lot. That was it. That was all he had. Maybe that was a lot. Not, how could you do this? Not, you had no right. Not, those belong to my daughter. Just a weak, pathetic, half-hearted mumble. Diane rolled her eyes. Oh, don't start, David. The girl needs to grow up. Claire's been dead for 6 years. It's time to move on. Move on. She told me to move on from my mother. The woman who carried me for 9 months. The woman who read me bedtime stories. The woman who fought cancer with everything she had just to get one more day with me. And this woman, this intruder, told me to move on. I didn't say another word that night. I walked out of the house. I sat in my car in the driveway and I sobbed for 2 hours straight. I called my mom's sister, my Aunt Rebecca. She cried with me on the phone. She told me she was so sorry. She told me she had some photos of my mom saved on her computer and some old albums at her house. That gave me a tiny sliver of hope. But it didn't fix the devastation. Those original photos were irreplaceable. My mom's handwriting on those birthday cards, I would never get that back. Her necklace, the one she wore every single day until the hospital made her take it off, was sitting in a landfill somewhere. That Thanksgiving, I didn't eat dinner with them. I drove to Aunt Rebecca's house and spent the holiday there. My dad called twice. I didn't answer. And that night, lying in my aunt's guest bedroom, staring at the ceiling, something shifted inside me. The sadness was still there. The grief was crushing. But underneath it, something new was growing. Something hot. Something sharp. Fury. Diane had spent years slowly erasing my mother from that house. And now she had finished the job. She thought she had won. She thought I would just cry about it and eventually move on like a good little stepdaughter. She was wrong. I pulled out my phone. I opened a notes app. And I started writing. A plan. A careful, detailed, patient plan. Because I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to make Diane regret what she did in ways she couldn't even imagine. And I was going to use the truth to do it. She wanted to erase my mother? Fine. I was about to make sure the whole world remembered her, and knew exactly what kind of monster Diane really was. The first thing I did was gather evidence. I went back to the house one weekend when Diane was at her book club. I told my dad I just wanted to pick up a few things. He looked guilty. He should have. While I was there, I took photos of the yoga studio. The room that used to be mine. The room that used to hold my mother's memory. I documented everything. Then I called Aunt Rebecca. She went through every old album she had. Every digital folder. Every email my mom had ever sent her. We found over 200 photos of my mother. Birthday parties. Christmas mornings. Beach vacations. Hospital visits where she was still smiling even though she was dying. Rebecca also had copies of some of the letters my mom had written to me, letters she had photographed years ago because she said they were too beautiful to exist in only one place. Thank God for Aunt Rebecca. Next, I created a social media page dedicated to my mother's memory. I called it Remembering Claire. I posted her photos. I shared her story. I wrote about the kind of woman she was, her kindness, her strength, her love. And then I wrote about what happened. Every detail. How my stepmother systematically erased her from our home. How she threw away irreplaceable photos and letters. How she tossed my dead mother's necklace in the trash like it was garbage. How my father stood by and did nothing. I didn't use Diane's full name at first. I didn't have to. The story spoke for itself. Within a week, the page had over 10,000 followers. People were furious. They shared it everywhere. Comments poured in from people who had lost parents, people who had dealt with cruel stepparents, people who understood the pain of having someone try to erase the person you loved most. Then someone from our hometown found the page. And that's when everything exploded. Diane's friends saw it. Her coworkers saw it. Her church group saw it. The woman who smiled and played the perfect wife every Sunday morning was suddenly exposed for exactly who she was. People started confronting her. Asking questions. Whispering behind her back. The pastor's wife called her directly and told her what she did was shameful. Diane was humiliated. Completely and utterly humiliated. She called me screaming. Told me I was a liar. Told me I was ruining her life. Told me to take it down immediately. I said one thing. Now you know what it feels like to have something precious taken from you. Then I hung up. But the consequences didn't stop there. My dad finally woke up. Seeing thousands of strangers call him a coward and a terrible father broke something in him. He called me crying. Really crying. For the first time since my mother's funeral. He told me he was sorry. He told me he had failed me. He told me he had failed my mom. He filed for divorce 3 months later. Turns out, Diane had been spending his money recklessly for years. Shopping sprees. Secret credit cards. She had racked up nearly $40,000 in debt behind his back. The divorce uncovered everything. She walked away with nothing. No house. No money. No reputation. Nothing. My dad and I slowly rebuilt our relationship. It wasn't easy. Some days I still felt angry at him. Some days I still felt heartbroken. But he started going to therapy. He put my mother's photos back in the house, printed from the digital copies Aunt Rebecca saved. He even bought a new frame for the beach photo. The one of me and my mom with the sand between our toes and the sun in our hair. It sits on the mantel now. Right where it always should have been. Diane tried to erase my mother from existence. But my mother's love was stronger than her hatred. It always was. It always will be. And that was the day I finally understood, karma always finds its way back.